Greetings once again, and welcome back to Eye of the Beholder, where we review Dungeons & Dragon miniatures produced by WOTC and WizKids in the 20-year span covering 2003 through 2023. We continue our review of the Giant minis, turning our gaze to Fire Giants and Fomorian Giants. Let's jump in. As dangerous and unpredictable as the element they are named for, Fire Giants are formidable adversaries who prefer to live in volcanic and mountainous environments. They consider bravery the highest of virtues, which drives them to attack with great relish given the opportunity. Fun fact, Fire Giants are known to begin attacks with hurled boulders heated in fire or lava before moving in for close quarters. We get our first two Fire Giants in 2004's Giants of Legend set. The first has a very distinct pose, charging forward at full speed, two-handed sword already cocked to take a gigantic swipe at its target. Did you notice the sole of the right boot? Fantastic detailing showing the knobs from the cobbler's nails, which probably also help gain traction. The bright orange of his hair and beard is a shocking contrast to the dull gray of the armor and the black of the hands and face. Score: Paint 17, Pose 24, Playability 14, Pizzazz 17, for a score of 72. Our second Fire Giant from this set is a named mini, King Snur. Pose has him seemingly exhorting his troops to battle, sword held high and above his head in one hand, while the other a clenched fist. Armor is similar to the previous mini, but in what I can only assume is a sign of rank, King Snur wears the skin of a white dragon, the dragon's head forming a hood, while the skin has been fashioned into a cloak. Again, the orange beard and mustache make for a nice color contrast. Score: Paint 19, Pose 18, Playability 15, Pizzazz 22, for a score of 74. Two years later, we get this Fire Giant Forge Priest in 2006's Blood War set. Probably a cleric of Surtur, he stands ready to defend the faith with an enormous two-handed warhammer held front and center. Facial features are more pronounced here. I particularly like the expressive eyebrows over the fire-red eyes. Not as well armored as the previous minis, though, with shoulder armor over a brown tunic and greaves over gray trousers. Score: Paint 17, Pose 17, Playability 15, Pizzazz 16, for a score of 65. Two more years go by before we get our next two Fire Giants in, appropriately enough, the Against the Giants set from 2008. First up is this Fire Giant Raider, and no, you're not imagining it, they are getting progressively bigger. With beard and hair more yellow than orange, he glowers down as he towers over his foes with his two-handed sword raised high above his head in preparation for a mighty blow. He is the best armored of the WOTC Fire Giants, in full plate and helm, but with his massive biceps exposed. Score: Paint 18, Pose 21, Playability 15, Pizzazz 17, for a score of 71. Armor? We don't need no stinking armor. Meet the Fire Titan from the same Against the Giants set. Clad only in dark trousers and a wide belt that looks like something from the WWE, he stands bare-chested, bellowing his battle cry, fist clenched and sword raised high. And how about that sword? Made of translucent orange to simulate flames, he also appears to be rising out of an inferno, feet still engulfed in flame, while fire dances along his shoulders and makes up his hair and beard. Score: Paint 17, Pose 24, Playability 20, Pizzazz 25, for a score of 86. From here, WizKids sets a new standard for Giants, huge miniatures only. Our first Fire Giant comes from 2016 Storm King's Thunder set. Like the previous WOTC mini, this one also employs translucent orange flames, but not to the extent of the previous one. Rather than a flame blade, the brutal squared-off sword wielded in his left hand is only wreathed in flames, while he casually holds a ball of fire in his right. Extremely well-detailed scale mail armor helps make up for the nondescript facial features. I really like the disc-shaped plate mounted behind the head. Score: Paint 19, Pose 25, Playability 20, Pizzazz 25, for a score of 89. We get these two Fire Giant minis in the same set, identical in paint and pose, with the only difference being the weapons wielded. A mace for one, a hammer for the other. Armor is nicely done. Note the detailing of the van braces on each arm. Again, facial detailing is lacking, but interesting, they're both wearing crowns. Can there be two kings? Or perhaps they are twin princes, destined to one day battle each other for the kingdom. Score: Paint 17, Pose 14, Playability 14, Pizzazz 13, for a score of 58. Our final Fire Giant is peculiar. From 2018's Monster Menagerie 3, we get this Fire Giant Dreadnought. Paint is almost monochrome gray, with pale blue for the face and hands, and a red sash at its waist. We also do get a splattering of red on the twin shields, which I assume is blood. And talk about those shields. He wields full-size, spike shields in each hand, obviously designed to plow forward, smashing all resistance. Cool, but I'm not sure how playable it is. Score: Paint 13, Pose 18, Playability 9, Pizzazz 14, for a score of 54. Fomorian giants have an interesting backstory. They were once considered the most beautiful of giants. However, in their lust for power, they invaded the Feywild, where they were defeated by combined forces of the Archfey and generationally cursed with hideousness. Retreating to the Underdark, they plot their revenge. Due to their deformity, they are unable to throw boulders at opponents, forcing them to close and fight with crude melee weapons. We get our first Fomorian in the first set to feature huge miniatures, 2004's Giants of Legends. Light blue body is appropriately misshapen, and the visage is appropriately hideous. Clad in a tattered brown loincloth, he's picked up a scrap or two of armor along the way. I like how the head is turned to one side while he raises his spike club to strike. Nice posing. Finally, note the necklace. It's not part of the sculpt. The necklace and medallion are separate and could be removed. Score: Paint 14, Pose 18, Playability 17, Pizzazz 15, for a score of 64. Six years later in WOTC's last set, 2010's Lords of Madness, we get this Fomorian Painbringer miniature. First off, what a unique weapon. A three-tailed chain flail with barbs at the end of each length, it perfectly matches the Painbringer moniker. Pose has the creature fully committed to a flail strike, slight lean on the right, shoulders turn and hand held high as he maximizes his power. Dark blue body is covered with a very nicely detailed robe. Note the embroidery on the collar. And the face, with the different size eyes, well, only a mother could love. Score: Paint 23, Pose 25, Playability 20, Pizzazz 23, for a score of 91. Interestingly enough, our first WizKids Fomorian from 2016 Storm's King Thunder is mounted on a large base. He is almost as tall as his hugely mounted brethren, just a bit thinner. Face is very well done, with yellow eyes and open mouth with pointed fangs. And while the body does show some deformity at the shoulders and back, please, 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 someone curse me with those abs and chest. Blue-gray for the body and browns for everything else complete the color palette. Score: Paint 14, Pose 14, Playability 15, Pizzazz 14 for a score of 57. Five years later, we get back to the huge miniature Fomorian and 2021 Snowbound set. Pose lurching forward, Giant Club resting on his shoulder, WizKids gives this mini a bit more dark wash across the pale blue body, which really brings out the lumps and bumps. Face has the same yellow, mist-sized eyes and open mouth as its predecessor, and as a callback, he has the same star-shaped medallion around his neck as the first Fomorian mini 17 years ago. Score: Paint 16, Pose 13, Playability 15, Pizzazz 15, for a score of 59. The very next set in 2021 gives us our final Fomorian. From the Wild Beyond the Witchlight, this is a carbon copy of the last two, just posed slightly different. Blue-gray skin, yellow eyes, brown loincloth, and crude club. He even has the same medallion. Is there a meaning behind that symbol that I don't know? Basically, WizKids gives us the same mini in 3 different sets, so if they're not going to change the paint and pose, I'm not going to change the score. Paint 16, Pose 13, Playability 15, Pizzazz 15, for a score of 59. And with that, we come to another perfect spot to call it a night. Next week, bundle up, because we'll be looking at the Frost Giant miniatures next, just in time for Christmas. As always, I appreciate all who take the time to watch. Feel free to leave a comment if you like. I am the Beholder, signing off.